Okay, so tonight we're going to be continuing in module number 6. The last time we were together, we looked at getting started on the fundamentals of assemblies. And as we look in the learning plan here for module number 6, the first part that we looked at was numbers 1, 2, and then like 3 here, okay? Numbers 1 and 2 are looking at this pulley assembly, okay? And this is what chapter 9 in our book is dedicated to. This is a tutorial to go through. The parts, so you don't have to draw them and you can just focus on creating the assembly, are here for you to download, okay? So make sure that you download these into your working directory. And then what you're going to do is you're going to create the 2 models. One is a subassembly, and then the other one is going to be the assembly where you bring that subassembly in and you use it as part of the larger assembly. Okay. In this case, you're going to upload screenshots only of the subassembly and that pulley assembly. Okay. That's screenshots only because you're just modeling that one. All right. So, so you have to do this one first. This gets you the introduction to doing the assemblies. Then the second part of module 6 is going to be doing another assembly, okay? But this time, we're not only going to be putting the model together, like putting all the parts together, we're now going to be putting it on a drawing border, adding a bill of material, and putting balloons on, okay? So that's what I want to demonstrate for you tonight, is utilizing this particular, or going through this assignment so that you have a good heads up for that and know what to do, all right? So, so this is like, if you would, part 2 of module number 6, okay? But do the first part with the support assembly and the pulley before you get to here. So by design, you want to work your way down this learning plan. Now, if you happen to be in the room, you are getting the handout that I have here, okay? And I'm going to go, oops, I forgot to open my camera. Let me do that. And I'm going to pull this up. So if you are virtual, you're going to want to pull up that handout and have that available. But in the meantime, we'll look underneath our camera here. So the handout that I have up here on the table, if you need to grab it, is this handout right here. And I have some additional notes on here, but you're going to be creating this assembly. So you're going to notice that we've got a bill of material up here. So we'll talk about, you know, stuff with assemblies. We've got a particular border that we use for assemblies only. This is not the B-size border that you normally use for detail parts. This is actually formatted to make an assembly drawing. So it kind of automates this for you, okay? You're going to be putting a pictorial or an ISO view in here, and you're going to be creating a section view so that we can see and balloon all the parts, okay? So, so this is what I want to demonstrate for you tonight. Unfortunately, the book that we have doesn't do this, okay? It seems like it cuts it off just a little bit early. It does assemblies, but it doesn't put them in drawing form, okay? So I think that's really important that you know that. So that's what we're going to be doing here. So the actual assignment sheet is here. You will be, for this assignment, building 3 parts, okay? You're going to be creating the drill jig base. You're going to be creating the end bracket. You will not create these fasteners. We're going to be pulling those in from the library in Creo. I'm going to show you how to use that. So do not create those 2 fasteners. And then you're going to create this part down here called the center plate. And then they go together in this assembly. So it's a small little assembly, very simple parts. Shouldn't take you long. You're not detailing these. You're just modeling the parts. Okay. So I thought you guys can do that. So you'll model the parts. And the reason I want you to model the parts is you probably have already been, you know, as you go from, for instance, model to drawing, you might be like, gosh, I wish I would have used a different view or modeled that a little differently, so it would have come in easier into my drawing. Well, we got to think in terms of assemblies as well. So there might be places where center planes might make sense, or the way that you view it, or what your front view is, or what your top view is. And so you want to kind of know how these parts all go together, because that's not only going to dictate how you model it, but it's going to dictate the drawing, which you're not going to create for these, but the assembly and how to put it together as well. Okay. So, so that's what I want to highlight tonight. Now I've already drawn my parts, so I'm going to demo putting this together in an assembly and then also creating the assembly drawing. Okay, so that's what I need your time for here. That's what this is going to be dedicated to. So your job number one, when you get this far, is going to be modeling the separate parts here, not the hardware, and then putting it together in your model. So let me go over to Creo. Oh, I don't have it open. Shoots. Okay, just bear with me for just a moment. So if you happen to be virtual, you know, kind of get these handouts already. They're in our learning plan. Say, okay. Okay, I got to set up my working directory. Okay. Oops, chat. I'm here, but not 100%. Oh, hi, David. Yes, I know you're not feeling well at all. So, so thank you. I'm glad you are here. Don't forget, if you don't, for anybody, if you're not feeling well, I always record these. So, so feel free to take advantage of that too. So, what I'm going to do is I am going to start anew, and I'm going to create an assembly here. Now, when we create our assembly, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be putting our file name in as the number. So on our assembly down here, you're going to notice that the part number is 13500. So that's going to be the part numbers that we're going to use. Then when we create our, I've already created mine. When you create your drill jig base, your file name is going to be the 13510. But now you're going to be putting in a common name, and you're going to be putting in the part name in common name. So I'm going to kind of illustrate that here in Creo. So you're going to notice file name is going to be my 13500. Now this is going to also be the same thing for when you create a part, okay, or a model. And then common name is going to be drill jig assembly. Okay. Now make sure you do that for each one of the parts, because the way that I formatted the bill of material on the assembly drawing border, and you're going to see that we have a new one of those, but I'll get there when we get there. It's going to pull that common name to fill in the bill of material. Okay, so we're going to start filling that in as well. And then I'm going to hit OK. Oh, it does already exist. So let me call it 2. Sorry. All right. So now you're going to notice that I'm in my assembly mode. So here on my model ribbon, I have the option to pull my first part in for my assembly. So I'm going to go in, and this is where, you know, you look at your parts here and you want to logically bring in. Now, does it really matter the order? Not so much, but it's going to be the first one is the most important one, because that grounds the whole assembly. All right. So you want to think, and most often you want to put this together the way you would anticipate physically putting it together. So we would want to grab our base first. So this is called the drill jig base. And I, again, have mine already modeled. So I'm going to hit the assembly. I'm going to navigate to my working directory where that part number is, and I'm going to open it. Okay. So then you're going to notice that it's going to, you know, automatically come up here and say, where do you want that placed? All right. Now, this is where, as I look at my assembly, you're going to notice that there is a line of symmetry right down the center here. Okay. Kind of on that, what would be like the front plane here. When I modeled my drill jig base, I put that front plane right down the middle. So when I extruded, I did a symmetrical extrude on that. Okay. Because I could see that there's that line of symmetry. And then when I'm in my assembly mode, I can make those planes, for instance, coincident. Okay. And then that'll kind of, you know, orient parts for me. So what I'm going to do here in Creo is you'll notice that this came in, and there's a center plane down my part. Okay. But it's lining up in the back of, if you would, the front plane. Okay. So what I want to do instead is I want to say, all right, I want to make a coincident constraint, and I'm going to grab the center plane of my part to the front plane of this assembly. Okay. And then now, do you see how it moved it so that it's in the middle, so that they're coincident? Okay. Then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a new constraint, and I want to fix this. Okay. My first part is always fixed, because now I've got something that's not going to move around. All right. They call it something else in SolidWorks. If you guys are familiar with SolidWorks, David, what do they call that in SolidWorks? Is it fix? maybe you're not hearing me. That's okay. But you always want to do that first part. I forget what it's called, but I think it's this. I think it's when it comes in already defined. No, when you pull in that first part, you usually, what was that? Is it, it's, you anchor it, but it's called something. It is, oh, it is fixed there too as well. Okay. All right. So I guess it is the same terminology. So now when my part turns this orange color, that means that it's fully constrained, fully defined. Okay. And that you'll learn if you haven't already gone through chapter 9. So then I can hit the OK button here. All right. Now it will let you hit the OK button if you're not fully constrained. Okay. But not a good idea. All right. I will know. And this is where in this assembly, you're going to be submitting the screenshot of the model of the assembly, and then you're going to be doing the PDF of the drawing. Okay. So there's going to be 2 parts to this particular assignment. This is assignment number 14. And over here, if you aren't fully constrained, there's going to be a little rectangle box next to the part number. And so when you do your screenshot, I need to see your model tree because that'll tell me if you're fully constrained or not. Depending on how you do it, it should always align with the origin. Yes, you're correct. Yep. All right. Now, the other thing I want to encourage you to do as well is as we're building these parts and we're pulling them in, they're all going to be this like blah gray color. All right. And it is going to be kind of nice, especially if you don't have shaded with edges on. It's going to be hard sometimes to see where one part ends and the other part begins. So one thing that I encourage you to do is I want you to change the colors, okay? And right up here, it's real easy. You just select the part number in the design tree and you go up to appearances and now you can change your color palette. I keep it pretty simple. So I'm just going to call it yellow or assign it yellow. And then as the other parts come in, we'll assign colors too, okay? So you can do that. All right, so I've got my first one in here. Now I'm just going to hit assemble again, and I'm going to go to my second part, which is 13,520. Open that one, and it's going to pull it in automatically. So you'll notice that it's the purple part over here. And what I like to do with Creo, if you let Creo or any parametric software for that matter make too many decisions, ultimately they'll probably not do what you really want. So I like to get my part as close to being where it needs to be as possible. All right. So you'll notice that you have this like globe and, you know, arrow thing. So if you hover over any one of those, okay, they'll turn orange. And then when you click on it, left click on it, it'll go in that direction. So for instance, let me scooch this up here. I'm going to hover over the green here and I'm going to lift this straight up. Okay. So it only goes in that direction. And then when I let go, it stops. There's also these other, you know, handles. So this is going to rotate it around that axis. Or for instance, it can rotate it in this direction as well. So like I said, I like to get it as close to where it needs to be, you know, so that I can still select. So I'm going to pull this back a little bit. All right. And you'll notice that it's not perfectly aligned right now. It's okay, because I'll do that through my constraints. So now that I have this here, the first thing I'm going to do is I want the holes to align from my top part to my base. So I'm going to change this from automatic to coincident. And I'm going to click on one center line to the other center line. There we go. And now the center lines are in line with one another. Now in the book, they will also have you click on the inside wall, for instance, of a hole. You could do that as well. All right. But I tend to align center lines or the axes. So that one's done. Now that's one constraint. And you'll notice that I'm not orange yet. So that means that I'm not fully constrained. And you'll also see that I don't have like all of my, my whole globe, if you would. There's a name for it. I forget what it's called, but it's not all white. So then I need to add a new constraint. And the next one I want to do, my screen isn't too big. I wish it was larger. I want to make the bottom of my part. So you can, you know, maneuver this around, select the bottom to be coincident with the top of the base. Now, right now it thinks that it's constrained. And the reason it thinks it's constrained is because there is if you would, a circular feature holding this together. All right, but we can see that it's not straight on here and it's not good. So we're going to add one more constraint, and that is going to be parallel. So I'm going to hit the parallel, and I want this front face to be parallel to that side. Okay, and well, did I not grab the right one? Oh, it didn't. It did an axis. So I'm just going to delete it out of there, grab a new constraint. You could, you know, try to figure out which one's which, but sometimes I'm just like, nah, I'm just going to do it myself. And here's where turning some of these planes off sometimes is a good idea. So I'm going to make sure I'm on the right plane here. There we are, the surface. And I feel like I might be grabbing one of the planes, the surface. There we go. Now it's straightened out. I think it grabbed either an axis or one of the planes. So now I'm fully constrained, and you'll notice that that little globy thingy went away. Okay. So this one's in place. I'm all good. And when I hit my okay, notice that I don't have any of those rectangles. So now I'm going to change the color of this one. I'm going to make it blue. And then I'm going to add the other one in. Now, remember, if you've read the chapter, it tells you don't mirror parts in an assembly. Okay. You need to pull the next one in because it's like using that for the quantities in the bill of material. Okay. So, so now we're going to do that very same thing. We're going to do the same part, pull this in, and this time we're going to push it over to the other side over here. We're going to turn it around that, and then I'm going to push it up and I'm going to bring it back over. Okay. So then now I'm going to go through that same process. I'm going to do coincident, and I'm going to go axis to axis on my holes. Okay. And then I'm going to do another coincident. So I have to add a constraint, coincident, and I'm going to go from here to the top. And then my last one is going to be a parallel. And I could even do the side surface to the front surface. That would be fine too. Okay. Just so that it aligns and that they're straightened out. And now I can hit okay. I'm going to put my blue color on that one as well. And here we are. So not a bad idea to do a quick save. And then now I'm going to drop in my third and last part. So I've got to do my assembly, 530. Here's my next part. Okay. So I'm going to bring this one up and over. All right. And now for this one, because this has that center plane. All right. Now you're going to see on my part here in the bottom, I've got a plane assigned. All right. I added that plane to the middle of the part so that I could align it with this part right here. Okay. And to do that, we actually talked about that the last time we were together, but to do that, I'm going to hit cancel here for just a, wait, no, I don't want to. Yeah, I'll hit cancel for a second. I'm going to open up my base. And you're going to notice that I have this datum plane number 1. On my model ribbon, I can add a plane at that level, okay? And I added it as a reference from the right plane, 5 inches in, so it would be right in the middle of this 10-inch long base plate, okay? So you need a plane there to do this. And there are other ways that you can do it, but this way it keeps everything nice and centered, okay? I'm going to go back to my assembly. Oopsie. Back to my assembly, and I'm going to re-pull in that part. Open. All right. So I'm going to pull this up. I'm going to push this back. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make coincident this plane on my part to the center plane. Is that the center plane? Yeah. To the center plane of the assembly. Okay. So those two are coincident right now. I'm going to do another one. And now I'm going to go and I'm going to take the center line of my holes here and align them with the center lines of the hole on those side plates. Okay. And now you'll notice that this is like into the side of that one part, right? And I'm not fully constrained yet. So now this is where I'm going to make coincident, new constraint, coincident, and it's going to be that center plane of my top to the center plane of the bottom. Now I'm fully constrained. Okay. And I turned orange and I can say, okay. All right. And you'll notice that you have to align the holes. Don't align the part on the bottom because otherwise those holes aren't going to line up. All right. So the holes have to line up. And now I'm going to change the color to be red for that. Okay. So I've got all my parts in place. I'm going to do a file save. You'll notice I don't have any rectangles over here. I'm going to scooch this over. Oh, I got two more things to do. I've got to put fasteners in place, right? I got to show you that. So you do need to do that before we leave our assembly mode. Otherwise, we won't have our fasteners in place. Now, this is a little bit different. Okay. This is a little bit different. So, so this is a new tool that we're going to look at. This is the, you're going to go to the tools tab, and all the way over to the right, we have screw and dowel pins. Okay. This is called intelligent fasteners. All right. We're going to click the screw, and we're first going to put in the screw in the countersunk holes. Okay. So I am going to grab, it wants to know, select the position. So I want to grab the axis for this. So I'm going to grab the axis, and then it wants to know, where is the screw head going to start? It's going to start on this surface right here, the top. And where is it going to go through to? And it's going to be the bottom surface here. Okay. And then now you're going to see it's going to be on center, and it's going to kind of show in between there is where I'm going to put my fastener. Don't worry about orientation. We can skip that. We're going to hit OK. Now this menu is going to come up at the very top. We want to pick the catalog, just plain inch. Okay. Don't do ANSI English. You do just regular inch. And then we have to look back on the base. These are half-13 UNCs. So I'm going to go to half. And then I am going to click on not the hex bolt, but I'm going to arrow down here, and I'm going to go to countersunk screw. Okay, countersunk screw right there. All right. And then I'm going to set my depth, or the length of this, to 2 inches. Okay, 2 inches. So now you're going to see that it's, oops, I hit okay too soon. Shoots. Let me go back in here. Let me, oh, is it going to let me do that? Is it going to be difficult? Dang it. Feature. Okay. I'm gonna actually, it's going to be easier for me to just delete this out. I do want to delete it. I put a nut on the end of it. I forgot to uncheck that, and I accidentally hit OK. So I'm going to go through that process again, hit the screw, grab my center line, select this top surface, select the bottom surface, and you're going to see these. If you didn't select the center line, it would be offset from this somewhere. All right. And then you know you didn't grab the right place. Ignore orientation. It's on inch, countersunk screw, 1/2 inch thread. Okay. And then we want it to be 2 long, and we want to uncheck the nut on the back side. We don't want that in place there. And then it's going to give you a preview here of what we have. And then you're going to just simply hit OK. All right. And then now you're going to notice the fastener is in place. Isn't that nice? Do it again on the other side. Again, you don't want to do the mirror on this. So screw, select the center line, the top, the bottom, ignore the orientation. Everything should be remembered here. Make sure that the nut isn't on there. And then we're going to hit OK. And there we go. All right. Then we're going to be putting in the bolts on the side. So we're going to go again to screw. This time we're going to be on this center line. And we're going to start with this surface with the head, and on the back side through that surface. Okay. So let me scooch this over. So it should be right on center there with those arrowheads. Ignore the orientation. Okay. This time we're going to keep this on inch. We're going to go to the hex cap screw. Okay. Not a hex bolt, a hex cap screw. There. Make sure there's no nut. Now, I'm going to show you, I don't know why it does this, but it does. I think it thinks it's doing us a favor, but you're going to notice that it's going to put a counter bore in here. We're going to fix that. So it's going to say, okay. And now it's like buried underneath here. Okay. And if I put on, hidden lines, you're going to notice that it's under the surface. Okay. So I'm going to go back to where I was. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to go into this hex screw, and I'm going to go to edit definition. Okay. And what that's going to bring up is going to be like its placement. So we're going to click on distance. And this is the distance that it created a counter bore or put it down below the surface. And all we're going to do is we're going to change that offset dimension to 0. And it's really just like coincident. And now it came out. You see that? So instead of being a distance into, it's actually going to be on the surface now. And we can hit OK. All right. Oops, I'm a little bit long there. That's not good. So I need to make this shorter. So I didn't check that length. I think I was too fast on it. So we'll just go through it again. No big deal. Go to screw. And again, it's a little bit easier just to redefine it because then we can make sure it's right. And we want to go from this surface to that surface. Okay. And I want to change this to, I've got to look on my bill of material. 1.5. 1.5. The other one was 2 inches. Okay, so it's going to stick through right now, but then we want to go here, edit definition, and go on the distance constraint and click 0, enter. And now it's going to stick out a little bit, but we want to make sure that we get all the threads engaged. So this is perfect and that won't be in the way. So now we're going to do that very same thing on the other side. We get to do everything twice here. So screw again, don't do a mirror. Not a good idea. Not in the assembly mode. Here to here. Okay. This looks good. 1.5. It's remembering. Okay. It's down underneath. Edit that definition. And then we're going to go to the distance and set that to 0. And we are good. Okay. Now we have all of our stuff in place. So at this point, what you want to do, clean up your view here. If you save this with all of the, the notes and the stuff, it just looks yucky. So what I want you to do is always turn off all of your axes, all of your planes, and now it looks neater to do your screenshot. Now I'm going to do my screenshot, Windows Shift S, and I'm going to go up in my corner and include the design tree. Okay. And then all you want to do is capture this. You don't have to go all the way out here. You can just go right here and we're good. Okay. And then that's going to be what you're going to upload for the model of the assembly. Okay. The model of the assembly. Now we're going to take this a step further. All right. This is new stuff. This is kind of a review of what you learned in chapter 9. Now we're going to make a drawing with this. So I'm going to do one last save. I'm going to manage, delete old, and okay. We're going to make a new drawing. Now, I'm going to go back to our canvas. We're going to go to modules. And at the top here, underneath the Creo drawing borders, there is a new drawing border. There's an English assembly border. It's a B-sized assembly 3 view. You need to download this, okay? You only have to download this one because it's using one of the format files from up here. It's using the B size, okay? But what this is going to do is it's going to set up for us the special settings and the bill of material and the balloons to automatically come in, okay? So it's a little bit different than the regular ones up here. Now, and okay, let's do that. So I've got mine downloaded already, so you're going to have to download that. I'm going to go back to Creo, my assembly. I'm going to go to File, New, and I'm going to do drawing this time, okay? And my drawing is going to be 13502, right? Yep. And I'm going to say, use the drawing model. Oh yeah, it's in the background. And then I'm going to put the common name in here as drill jig assembly. Okay. And now it's going to grab that assembly. It's going to, I got to browse to my, now this is where they're very close. You want to grab the one that says assembly, not template. Okay. And it's going to have 3 views and you'll see what this does. So I'm going to hit okay. And now you'll notice that it automatically comes in for me. So it's my WCTC border and it's doing that very same thing. Now it wants me to put material in, but material is non-applicable for this. So just put N/A, okay, non-applicable. And then you're going to put in your initials like you normally do. And then you're going to put in the drill jig assembly. Okay. And then it fills in our title block for us. Okay. Let me zoom in here. So let's notice that our title block is all filled in. So it's the very same title block that we've been using, which is exactly what we want. But you'll notice that it created automatically for us a bill of material. A bill of material is going to be the list of the parts that is going to correspond to the balloons that are on the drawing. They're going to call out where these parts are going to be located, you know, as they go together. It's also going to include the description here, as well as the part number and the quantity. So again, don't mirror your parts in the assembly. If you do, it's not going to record the quantity correctly. Okay, so down on the bottom here, these part numbers for the socket head cap screws and the countersunk ones, the flathead ones, they're coming in as 2. Now, let's look at the bill of material. I'm a little, I'm not crazy about it, but this is how it has to work because we're using the standard stuff from Creo. I have to try to figure out if I can get this to work right, but for right now, this is what it is. So the part number is pulling from the file name, meaning the number that you called it and you saved it as, that's what your part number is going to be. So make sure you save these files as their part number. Okay, same thing with your vise assembly. Then the description is pulling from the common name when you create the model. So this time, instead of just, you know, going past the common name and just saving it as a file, you're going to put in an actual drill jig base, end bracket, and so on for each one of the parts. Okay. That way, when you do this, it's going to automatically populate. Now, we could put a general note in here, but the problem with the general note, and I kind of was playing with that, is it's not then tied to the parametrics of the model. So we're just going to leave these last 2 open, and we're going to let Creo put its description in for the standard hardware, because it's nicer to use the standard hardware than have to draw them all and all that kind of stuff. So this is better. So we'll just kind of, you know, not worry about that part of it. Now, as we look here, notice what it also did for us. It created 3 views, a front, a top, and a right side view. We don't need all 3, all right? This is a pretty simple assembly. In some cases, you will need all 3, but I'm going to select this view on the right, and I'm going to delete it, okay? Now, let's look underneath and look at the assembly that's here. So we're going to add in a general view over here, an isometric, all right? And the isometric is nice just because it's easier to visualize everything, right? So I'm going to go back to my drawing here, and I'm going to be on my layout tab. I'm going to also unlock this, and I'm going to go into, oopsie, I don't want to do that, not the drawing models. I want to go to general view. Okay. And we're just going to click right about there. All right. And I'm going to go to view display, and I do want that ISO, and I want this to be no hidden, and I think none. Apply. Let's go look at it. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, so then I'm just going to leave that isometric over there. All right. Now remember, if you change the scale of it, make it larger or smaller, always take out that scale is equal to, because it's just unnecessary text that's on a drawing. All right. It's really just there for pictorial purposes, clarity only. You're not getting any dimensions off of it, so you don't need to put that scale on there. Now, the next thing we're going to do, you're going to notice that this is a section view from the top. Okay, so we're going to create a section view. It's always good practice to do section views. All right. So we're going to go down here. And to do that, the view has to be here, which it is. I'm going to click on it. I'm going to go to my edit definitions or the properties. I'm going to go to sections, 2D section, plus planar. Okay, single, done. I'm going to call this one A, green check mark. And then I need to select my plane. The plane that I want this to go through is going to be through the very middle of my top view, which is the front plane. Okay. So over here, I'm just going to click on the front plane of my assembly. You'll notice that the A populated, and then Jacob and Hans figured this out last night. If we go all the way over here, if you haven't explored over here, there's an arrow display. If we click on that arrow display, it says select an item. If we go right here and we select the top view, oopsie, there it is. Oh, no, I want it in the, oh, yes, it'll happen. But I have to just hit apply. And now look at it, adds the arrows right there, rather than having to go back to the layout tab. So if you happen to remember to do that, you can do it in either place. Now I'm going to hit OK. And I need to clean up this view. So a couple things. I don't know why Creo does this, but it always puts the section view like right by the view. Always move that down and away. Okay, down and away. But it also put our balloons on nice, but you can see here that our hatching is kind of all over the place. Now, I'm going to click on it and I'm going to make it larger, 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 just so that, and then I'm going to go to the other one. I'm going to make this one larger individually, and then do that for each one of these. Now, couple things you're going to notice here is that what Creo already did for us is it put in place the hatching so that anything that's next to each other, do you see how it's in opposite directions? That's required, okay? So if you're adding hatch on anything, make sure you do that. It's also a good idea to kind of mix up the patterns a little bit. So if I select this pattern right here, there is a hatch gallery over on the left-hand corner. And then these are all your options, okay? Do not go crazy. Don't put stars in, please. We want to keep this, you know, professional. So, so the ones that are the most popular are the ASI 31 and ASI 32. So I'm going to change this one to 32, and then I'm going to have to make it larger again. So these are going to be a little bit closer, just to give it a little bit different look, different material. Now, the fasteners, we're going to take the hatching out of the fasteners. We don't hatch the most inside parts on an assembly. That's one of the rules. So we're gonna click on one of these, and we're gonna, so that it's selected by itself, and we're simply gonna hit hide. And then we're gonna click on the next one, hide. We might be able to, if I do control, sure enough, yep, and then hide. So you can do the control key to multi-select. All right. So what do you think about that? That looks kind of good, right? And then, so it's really not hard to make these assembly drawings. And that's why, for me, I'm like, why didn't they just add it in the book? You know, it's pretty straightforward, but they didn't. That's okay. You're getting more for your money. How about that? All right. And then now we want to do a little bit of cleanup here. You're going to notice that part number 5, if we look at our bill of material, this is going to be the hex cap screw, which is the one that's coming out here. And then part number 2 is actually that L bracket on the side. So they're kind of ballooned a little wonky. So what I want to do is I'm going to take number 5, and I'm actually going to go put it on the other side over here. So I'm going to grab my balloon and I'm going to move it over here, but notice that it stays attached. All right. So I don't want it to be over on there and then cross over. I want it to actually be over here. So I need to go to the annotate tab, and I'm going to hit attach. I'm going to click on this arrow right here. And then I'm going to click on the end of this, whatever that's called, a hex bolt, okay? Or a hex head cap screw. And then now it's going to place it there. And then if you don't really like where that's at, you can again kind of, whoopsie, click off of the attach. And then you can kind of maneuver this around the way you want it to go. Okay. Number 2, I'm going to switch from where it's at right now. I'm going to actually put it like up here, and then I'm going to have to move its attachment from here to here. There we go. And then done. Okay. Number 4, too, isn't in a great place. So I'm going to take number 4 and I'm going to put it like over here. All right. And then we're going to do that same thing with the attach. We're going to attach it here instead. And then done. Okay. And so you can kind of play with those so that they look kind of nice. You don't have to do them in the exact order, but as long as they're easy to see and read, it's totally fine. So play around with that a little bit. Now, is there anything you notice that is missing from this drawing, from this view? Does anybody see it? If you're online, feel free to chime in. Do you see anything that's like not in this view, in this section view? There aren't any center lines, right? Now, this is a killer in Creo. I played with this, I think, for 2 solid days, and I'm like, I can't believe we can't do this. And I looked on YouTube, I asked Chum, and he's like, yeah, I don't know. So when we normally put center lines in, we click on the view and we go to show model annotations, right? Well, when you do that, you go all the way over to this tab. There's no center lines to put in. And if you go to each one of these selections here, there's no center lines to put in. No center lines, okay? So you can't put them in that way. So our other option is to put them in manually, All right. And I'm going to have you put them in manually. I'm sorry, but it's just a little step that we have to do. This is the only way that I was able to see how you do it. Now, if somebody finds out how we can get those in, please share with the group, because I exhausted what I felt were all of the ways that we could do it. So, so I am open if somebody runs across a solution for this, but we're going to have to go into sketch line and we're going to have to put it in for each one of these. Now it has to go down the center. So I'm going to stop that line. You're going to have to go to the ends and extend. If you try to put this over the top of where you believe the center is going to be, they're not going to be on the center and they're going to be a little bit wonky. And you can, believe it or not, you can totally see that. All right. You can see when that happens. So what I've been doing is when I lay my line down, I find on there where it snaps to a center and then another center. I stop my line. I hit my middle mouse button twice. I go over the top here and then I can drag it and it'll stay in line and then I'll release it. I know it's kind of not great. So I'm putting just the lines in at the moment. The same thing here, get to the middle, and then move out and move out. Okay. And then do that for the other two. And then we need to change the line type. Okay. Because these aren't center lines. These are regular lines. So we've got to change them. And then lastly, now I am also going to tell you that you need to do this as the very last step after you're like, yep, I've got my assembly all set here and it all looks good. Do not do this while you're still trying to kind of solidify things, because if you move this view, these center lines won't move with it. And then you've got to do it all over again. Okay. So make sure you do it at the end. Now to change the center lines, to change these lines to center lines, I'm going to select, hold my control key, grab each one of them so that you can multi-select here. And then up on the top, you can see where it says line style. And you're just going to click them all to center and then hit OK and then close. And now you have your center lines in place. Okay. Make sure you add those. All right. Make sure you add those, but then don't move the view anymore. So if we go back to layout over here, lock your view movement. And now you should be safe. Okay. All right. See, that didn't take long at all. That didn't take long at all. So, so that is then our assembly drawing. When you make the PDF here, do not do a screenshot here. All right. We're going to continue to, because we've got our border on, we want to make it look nice. We want to do the file, save as, and go down to export. And then you're going to export it and you're going to save it then to your working directory. Okay. And then that's going to be the file that you're going to upload. If you pick a screenshot, it's all grainy and yucky. And I'm actually not accepting it. I've had a couple people do it. I'm like, no, you have to do it through the save as command and create the PDF. So, so when you, for instance, would release this to production, this is the format you would want it to be in, not in the kind of that screenshotty mode. Okay. It does look so much better like that. All right. So that is a demonstration of creating the drawing. So I have this recorded. So if you need to go back to this, you certainly may. All right. Couple things. I want to just do a quick reminder. I'm going to go, oopsie, I see there's something on the chat. Why not show the dimensions? Oh, because we don't show dimensions in assembly drawings. The dimensions are all going to be on the details. Okay. Now, if there was something that you wanted to put in here as a reference dimension, you certainly could, but by design, assembly drawings never have any sort of dimensions on them. That's defined in our details. We're not going to be doing the details for this. You just have to create the models. I want you to just, focus on creating the assembly. Does that make sense? Okay. So yeah, sorry. I meant why not bring the datums from the parts? Do you mean the axes? Maybe you could do that. Maybe you know what? I'll have to see if I could do that from the part. Maybe you're right. I don't know. I tried a couple different things. I did go back and I activated the axes from the parts and they wouldn't show in the assembly. So, and I kind of tried to look through some settings and I just couldn't find it between, like I said, the last couple of days I've been playing with it. And I talked to Tom a little bit and he's like, yeah, I don't know why it's not doing it. And none of the views. So even if I go up to this view, even though that one's not a section, same thing. There's no, oopsie, not this one. It's the annotate. It won't show. I gotta move this. No, I try. You know what? I'm probably it. I have to believe it can be done, but there's nothing here either in that top view, you know, thinking that maybe it was just because it was a section instead. But I couldn't figure it out. So yeah, if anybody wants to be challenged and try to figure out the center line thing, it can be done. I know it can be. I know it can be. If you come up with a process and you want to demonstrate it, I'll give you extra credit and an extra piece of pizza next week, Thursday or something, whenever we have our pizza party. Okay. So yeah, I'd love to get that figured out. So, so for right now, that's our fix, because I do want them in the assembly drawing. Okay, let's go over just a couple things on this assignment before I let you loose. So I'm going to go underneath here, a couple things to remind you about. When you are creating these parts and you're going to model these, remember you're saving them as their part number, but you're inputting the common name as drill, jig, base, for instance. Okay, common name, so that when it pulls into the bill of material, automatically populates. Same thing for each one of these. You are not modeling the hardware. You're using the intelligent fixture or the intelligent fasteners or whatever it said, okay? On the tools menu, all right? We're pulling those in. And I just want to, yep, I went over all those things. Oh, also make sure that you're pulling in the B-size assembly border. And it says -3 views. And then you're going to be doing the pictorial here, because then it'll automatically generate our bill of material, put our views in place, put our balloons on here. It's kind of like those are automated, all right, to make it a little simpler. And then you're going to be saving 2 things. So for this assignment, I'm going to go to module number 6. For the second assignment, number 14, this is the drill jig assembly. You're going to be uploading 2 things. You're going to be uploading the model, taking a screenshot of the model. That's what I have up here. And then you're going to be doing a PDF through the save as command for the assembly drawing. And each one of these is worth 10 points. So this total assignment is 20 points, if you would. No details for the individual parts, only model the individual parts, okay? Only model the individual parts, but it's going to be an assembly drawing for the assembly, okay, and a model. Any questions about that? Now, I realize not everybody's at this point, so you don't have to, you know, work on this right away. So if when you are ready to get here, if it ends up being a little bit later, make sure that you review this video. And if you have any questions as you're working, just let me know, okay? Now, you may be asking, well, when are we going to be doing the assembly for the vise? Let's work on that next week, okay? Let's kind of just get these fundamentals under our belt. That's why I wanted these smaller little assemblies to practice with first, and then we'll do the big one next week, okay? All right. Then the rest of the night, you're you know, able to work as you wish, and I'm here for, you know, helping you out as needed. So I'm going to stop recording.